what I'm going to present to you is this cost action, which I'm sharing, underground for value, that has a strong connection to the landscape. Just like a game, I went to analyze in the cost actions, let's say, database. And in 50 years, I found only 4 actions dealing with underground, only 11 actions with built heritage, but much more about sustainability. As you can see, landscape, it's not common, and community ecology. It's very interesting, and maybe you can answer also why we decide to deal with the underground built heritage. And basically, underground built heritage is, you can see I have a short, let's say, taxonomy of underground built heritage, but you know, time is short, and maybe you can read it. But when we see underground built heritage, we look at 3 building activities: architectural, urban, and landscape heritage beneath the surface of the earth, which the contemporary generation is thought to have cultural values. So not any hole in the ground is underground built heritage for sure. But if you go to what, why, and how, the what is architecture, urban, landscape. But then we have still another problem, because we have to define what is underground, basically. And sometimes when we go to see also some, let's say, underground heritage, we look at the biggest part is overground, and that is one of the problem. The other problem is why unique, more than any heritage resource, maybe large and costly, so maybe abandoned, and we have to define the specific values for the community. And another third point is how community oriented an action of the community or global, because we need to protect it because of all the objective world heritage values, protection against development sometimes. So we need to find solution space. We have to provide options, and that is also the role of the research. This must be sustainable, inclusive, but also intelligent. And then I must say that we went to search for real studies on the underground landscape. We didn't find any. So at the moment, we have no ecological landscape defined for underground places. Normally, when you look at the landscape for underground, it's overground, with a part underground maybe. But so we have no data, no quantitative elements also for defining what is the carrying capacity of an underground place. And normally, as I must say, the biggest difficulty that missing ecological studies for the underground, we let only space to geological studies. And that is one of the problems that we face. The challenge is promoting this underground built heritage as a valuable resource to celebrate and preserve, but also when sustainable to reuse and valorize, realizing its full potential to support the local community's development. So it's enough, let's say, for me now it's a sort of late motive since 3 years, but it's it's enough a clear assessment. And we create a network that is running from May 2019 and will finish to April 2023, and is composed by 33 countries, 179 members at the moment in 5 working groups. And clearly it's open to all interesting organizations and individuals. And we would like to reinforce the landscape side. How it works is it's enough simple. We have, let's say, management committee that makes the main decisions. And we have these 5 working groups. 3 working groups are, let's say, methodological and scientific. 2 working groups are supporting their work, one for the data collection and the management of surveys, and the other one for the communication and dissemination. All these groups, they are not meeting only for lunch and dinner, but they try to support the real case studies. So we have 4 case studies per year, where local organizations commit themselves to organize, to take decisions through living labs and to organize, let's say, real solution areas, solution spaces. And all their experience, then they are collected and they are used for developing a collective learning situation where we have a training school. In a training school that normally happens once per year, we have trainers and trainees working together to find this solution space. So objectives after all this yearly approach is to find a methodology that is sustainable for supporting local communities in doing their underground built heritage valorization. We want to define new skills for planners, decision makers, promoters, and local development facilitators. And finally, we want to activate communities. That is very challenging at the moment. In the first 2 years, we got 8 case studies, real difficult stories. I'm not going to tell specifically what happened, but we sent experts on site. We stimulate them to have a living labs on real problems through meetings, interviews, and also decision makings. And things happened. We are going to collect the storytelling of these experiences, but they are not finished because 1 year for one case study is nothing. Sometimes for having a decision, it will take much more the time of our cost action. So we are supporting the startup. And when we say living lab, we say a protected place, because basically we are a group of experts. We are supporting local communities to create this solution space. So we encourage a new form of collaboration at the local level. We organize meetings and we promote also a toolbox with a methodology to follow in order to experiment the potential results. The training school was the first one, but we already experienced the second one in presence in this September, very challenging with all the COVID restrictions. So that was the action, but then let's say from the point of view of the landscape, we moved from trying to implement the historic urban landscape recommendations. So we want to go beyond the preservation of the single, let's say, underground built heritage site, but we want to focus on the entire human environment. So that's why it's very important to define the landscape, this symbiosis between the human being and the nature. And cultural heritage is possible that is a catalyzer. But you have to demonstrate that as an outstanding value for the community. Not all cultural heritage has this value, and we believe that underground built heritage has an outstanding value. It's much more than a simple space, it's much more than a monument. Sometimes it's not accessible, but is in our let's say DNA, in our culture of a population. We were looking at the 3-country park case that will be for the next year one of our case studies, and mining activities or the mining history, they trace the territory, but also they made a difference for many lives and many families and for many cultures. So that was moving beyond, but also we want to increase the sustainability of planning, because we want to take that this built environment composed by not only tangible heritage, but also intangible cultural diversity, need to share local community values. So we support the transition towards sustainability through complex and uncertain process. Normally, we try to have a systemic approach similar to the ecological landscape, and we try to organize experimentation, learning, and sharing ideas. That's why, at the end, what is very important is not the success or the failure, but how the process happened and what we can learn from it. And then involving more people in preservation effort, raising level of awareness and seeking innovative schemes. That was the proposition of the historic urban landscape. From the social practice perspective, we can promote the local communities' empowerment and action built on emergent ideas and projects. I'm trying to schematize, but from one side, we have the necessary switch from object-centered to a people-centered approach. That means it's very difficult for many that they have in mind the sort of architectural solution of landscape. So we need to stimulate transitions. I give you our approach that is very traditional. We try to create a niche in order to influence a regime, as it could be UNISCAPE, for example, in order then maybe in the future we can, all of us, we can influence the real landscape. It is the physical and human environment at large scale. So this means that we need to stimulate the interaction between the global community and the local communities. We need to define new roles for experts and planners, not giving always the what and the how maybe, but supporting much more the why and the how. So through a strategic thinking process. And in this case, we want to help community to see ahead, behind, above, below, besides, beyond, and through. And to find, thank you. I hope that I was enough fast